Hello and a very warm welcome into Raising the Dots, connecting you with the people, ideas and technology reshaping the world of Braille and tactile literacy. I'm your host, Dave Williams. Coming up this time on Raising the Dots, we'll be sharing a powerful and moving story of Braille education that comes to us from North Africa. And we've also got some product news from the good folk at Dot. Before we get started this month, I've got a couple of announcements to share. The first one regarding Dot Book. There is now a new version of the Dot Book free reading app available from the App Store. So on your iPhone or iPad, you can go to your App Store and search for Dot Book. The latest version, 1.0.9, includes support for displaying 10 lines of Braille. So we've had this in testing for a little while, and it is now available for everyone. If you go to Settings in Dot Book and scroll down to the bottom there, you'll find that the number of lines setting now includes the option to choose 10, so you can display up to 10 lines of Braille on your dot pad, which improves reading fluency, less button pushing. It gives you a better idea of context, and it is a feature that I know many of you have been asking for. So do give that a try, the latest version of Dot Book from the App Store. Also, another little bit of news for you. We have later in April, on the 27th of April, a webinar about the work that Selvis have been doing to support DotPad in BrailleSense. BrailleSense is a powerful Android-based Braille notetaker that will connect to DotPad for multi-line Braille and graphical output. We'll be demonstrating that at the webinar on April the 27th. If you want to sign up, I think the best thing to do is to probably pop on over to the blog. That's blog.dotincorp.com, blog.dotincorp.com, where you'll be able to sign up for that webinar and also catch up with all the latest news from Dot. And the final little announcement is to invite you to join us in Germany, in Frankfurt, in fact, with over 150 exhibitors presenting a range of aids and services for blind and visually impaired people at the 2026 Sight City exhibition, which will be held in the centre of Frankfurt during that last week in May. We do hope you're able to join us there. Samira is a Braille teacher who now lives and works in the Sahrawi refugee camps located near Tindouf in Algeria. She teaches blind children to read and write Braille and also advocates to improve the circumstances of disabled people living in the camps. We spoke with Samira toward the end of September 2025, and our translator is Eva from the German association DBSV.
Hello, my name is Eva. I'm from Spain and I've been living in Germany for 12 years now. I'm working at the Federation for Blind and Partially Sighted People in Berlin. And right now I'm in the Sahrawi refugee camps in Tindouf, Algeria. I'm visiting the camps for 1 month and visiting different projects. And right now I'm in the camp called Smara with my friend Samira, who will introduce herself in a moment. And I wanted to get to know a bit more what she's doing here in the camps. So, hello, who are you?
Hola, mi nombre es Samira. Soy saharaui.
Hello, I'm Samira. I'm living in the refugee camps, Sahrawi refugee camps in Tindouf in Algeria, and I'm very happy to have Eva with me here visiting, and she will be also my interpreter for this interview.
Tengo 30 años y
I'm 30 years old and I became blind when I was 17. And afterwards I went to Spain, to Barcelona, trying to find some solution, like medical solution for my eyes. So I contacted the ONCE, which is the Spanish National Organization for Blind People, and that was through the Casa de Niños Enfermos, that is the house for children with illnesses. That was the first time that I heard about the word Braille, and that this Braille would be something that would help me to read again. So I could say that my biggest challenge was like getting my fingers used to touching the little dots, be able to read the letters. But it also wasn't a very big challenge because I realized that it was such a big improvement for me that I could be able to read again. And so I didn't really see it as a very big challenge because I had been reading before a lot and it was not as difficult as I thought.
Wonderful to meet you both. Thank you so much. Tell me a bit about the camps. Can you describe what daily life is like, especially for those blind children living in the camps? And if you could talk in particular about the experience of learning and reading for those blind children. What is that like? What are some of the challenges? And tell me about any stories or anecdotes or examples that you may have about children that you've met who are learning to read.
El día a día aquí en los campamentos en general.
Daily life here in general is pretty difficult because you have to work a lot in order to keep going like your basic needs of your daily life. And conditions in the desert, they are very hard.
Durante el día a día, para lo básico.
So for people with disability, of course, it's even harder. And things like mobility and orientation, they are very difficult in here. Like spaces are very big here. There's no so many like points of reference. So it's very complicated for a blind person to find their way around in the camp. So that's about the like daily life. But when it's focusing about education, it's even more difficult. So for many like parents and also the institutions, it's not always clear that blind children should start learning from zero and like from the very beginning, both orientation and tactile skills so that they can move around independently. And so the children grew up with without knowing that they have this possibility of learning how to read and write. So our aim here, our work is focused not only on teaching children, but also teaching parents and institutions that these children have the right and have the need to learn how to read and write. So we are finding here adults, not children, but adults that don't have literacy, like don't know how to read and write. And that's only because they are blind and people thought they don't have the need, and they cannot make it to learn how to read and write. So the biggest challenge here is because of this lack of awareness that children like who are blind should learn how to read and write. Because of this, and there are no resources available for them. So our challenge is to create these resources, to innovate, to find our ways how to let the children know there are letters there, they can learn them and they can be touched, and the letters have shapes and they can be learned. A personal example from my own life, I was really sure that I wanted to keep on with my studies, and also my parents were supporting me on that. So we went to very many different institutions and were asking, please, I would like to continue with my studies. And from all of them, we got like, because they really didn't understand this, that it was my need to continue my studies. And it was always like a negative answer because they will heard like the word blind and they were like, no, that doesn't work.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I think you may have partially already answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway in case you have something to add. How important is Braille and tactile literacy for the blind children living in the camps? And what is the view of their responsible adults about those children learning those skills?
O sea, yo ya hablé anteriormente de lo importante que fue para mí como mi propia experiencia.
So I've
que fue un
already
antes y
talked
un
before
después
about my
para
personal
mí
experience that
en
for me
el
learning Braille was like
sería
before and
correcto.
after in my life.
Por
Like
eso que no
I
podía
found that
ir
it's not like the end of the world that I'm blind now because I can go back to reading
entonces
again.
para
And
mí
so that was really important for me.
entonces
So my experience with the children now at school that I'm teaching, they are like between 5 and 6 years old, and they're learning Braille. And so you see the effect not only on the children, which of course they're improving and they're learning many things, but we see the effect also on their parents that come to school and they're super surprised. They're telling us, "Wow, my child knows the letters, they know the numbers." Like kind of they didn't expect that. So you can see the impact on both. One observation that I had, because they reached our school already in that age, and we realized they hadn't been encouraged at home to use their hands, like to grab things, to train their muscles, let's say. So we're seeing that at school that these children many times their muscles are really like very soft, like they are not strong enough. So we are also working on that. For example, using plastilin and trying to get their muscles more active.
entonces también hablo muchísimo con los padres de que por
So we are also
favor, aunque
working with the
sea
families
una
and telling
pequeña
them, please, at home, and try to exercise, try to get your children exercise muscles. Just let them grab things, let them tidy up, carry things with one hand, with both hands, so that they're training their muscles, which will be very important afterwards for touching the dots, the braille dots. And we are also teaching at school. We are training the skills for learning Braille, also with, for example, with egg boxes and plastilin. For example, I put on the table like an imaginary table, and I tell them to put, for example, dot number 5 or dot number 1, and I was very surprised about their ability to find that in a very good way.
tabla imaginaria.
So I could see the impact of these children learning the alphabet and the numbers, because they are now they learned this already, so they're now so eager to learn more, to know more. They're asking me about reading about books. They want to write, and then is when I feel a little bit frustrated, like my hands are tied because we really don't have so much resources at school and to give them what they are needing now.
In terms of reading and learning, what support are you able to provide right now? What's missing and what would help most?
Hasta ahora hemos estado trabajando con lo básico,
So until now, we've been using like very basic things that are probably known everywhere else, like with these egg boxes and little balls, and also using stones, so that the children get used to touch different materials and using the different shapes. And so, of course, we were using many of the materials we could just find here in the desert.
y diferenciar las cosas.
So now, thanks to the materials that Eva brought to us, like I'm very happy because now we will have something that I was missing, because I didn't want to go like straight to the Perkins. I was missing this kind of more like creative material so that children can learn in a playful way. So there's some games and simple books and things like this. So I'm very motivated to start using this. But also because I'm blind since I was 17, so I'm also in a different situation as these children, for example, that are blind children. So the needs are also different, and there are materials that I would need now that I didn't need when I was in their age. So, for example, these things that Eva brought, these materials are more focused on children, and these games, they are very useful. And the other thing that I'm missing also is like training for me, because I'm working here and I'm missing like to be maybe more qualified. So I'm really doing my best here, but I miss that I could be more qualified. So the one thing that would be very useful, like to have all these games and materials that I would be using, that they could be also available to bring them home, because it's not really doesn't really make sense when I'm teaching here and teaching and teaching, and then they go home and then they don't have any materials at all to keep working with their parents at home and practice. And yeah, I know there are many things available, but first I would need to know also what's available and then have it here, both at school and at home. So another thing that is missing as well is the white cane, for example, that would give them the possibility to learn more mobility and orientation skills that could give them more independency. And then at the extent that is possible, of course, because considering we are in the desert and you can never reach the level of autonomy like completely that you may reach somewhere else because of the conditions here. But that would, yeah, we would need these kind of materials and resources for mobility training. And above all, we would be a lot in need of training and like training of professionals that can work with them because we are really lacking specialists here.
Thank you so much. Tell me about your association organization. Where did this program come from? How did it start? And are you able to do any wider work around advocating for Braille in education? Obviously, you're working directly with the children, but what else are you doing day to day to promote Braille in education?
Entonces, bueno, en cuanto a la asociación, la creamos el año pasado.
We created
idea,
this
yo en realidad
association
desde
last
que era
year,
ciega tuve
but actually since I became blind when I was 17, I had this idea to do something for some other people who are also blind. So I was talking to many people, knocking at many doors and asking like, I just want to help other people. I want to teach children and I don't know, can I do it here? And I just found closed doors. So after many attempts, I realized that before helping others, maybe I should do something for myself. So I really wanted to continue my studies, which wasn't possible at the end. So then I thought, okay, I really want to fight for these children so they can have a different future, like the more possibilities than the ones I had, or that at least they have better conditions that I had. So at the beginning, it was just an idea for a project about blind people and technology. There was something very basic because I wasn't an expert either, neither in technology nor in blindness. So it was supposed to be from the beginning. Because I noticed that many blind people around me, they were like pretty convinced that they could not use any device and they could not learn how to read. And I was so sure at that moment that it is possible. And I said, no, I have to change this. I have to do something for this. But one day we were celebrating the Day of People with Disabilities on the 3rd of December. And the school here in Smara, that's the name of my camp, they contacted me.
Samira, queremos saber el braille, te
So
queremos
they
escribir
contact
los
me
puntos,
like,
no sé qué,
Samira,
Braille
we
de
want to
respuestas, y
know
yo
the
aproveché
dots of Braille, we want to write something. And so they were basically asking me for that, but that I'd use that chance to sneak in the school. And then once I got in, I told her I want to come here every day. And so that was the beginning. So I saw that as my chance to put a foot in the school. And then I was there and I told the director, come on, and here I'm the only one who knows Braille like perfectly, and I would like to teach here on this school. So those schools, they were created. They were called like blind schools at the beginning, and since 7 or 8 years ago, they started calling them like sensorial schools. So then I saw that it's not anymore like a school for blind and partially sighted children, but they're also deaf children, children with Down syndrome and other kind of disabilities sitting together. And then I thought, okay, I cannot just focus on children with visual impairment. I have to expand it to other disabilities because these other children will have the same future if we don't change things. I knew it would be a big challenge because I mean I'm an expert in blindness, but not on all the other disabilities. But I could not just stay in front of all the children and do nothing. So I said, okay, I take the challenge. So we created the association on 2024, and that was on the 21st of March, which is the International Day of Down Syndrome. So that's how we started with this idea for this association. And the main goal is to raise awareness among the Sahrawi society, the importance of education for all people with disabilities. So more focus in people with blindness. I saw the importance of education because I said I cannot just start showing somebody how you can use technology if these people don't have literacy. So first they need to know how to read and write, and unfortunately we are having many adult people having not knowing how to read and write. So once they know how to use the Perkins, how to write, how to read, then I can start working with them and showing them how to use computer, for example. So the main goal, let's say, from our association is about the importance of having Braille in daily life and the importance of literacy for people with all kind of disabilities. Because the Sahrawi society, it's unfortunately there's a need there to provide this. So one of the big challenges, and that is why things are going pretty slowly with us, is that we are lacking information. We're lacking statistics of people with disability living in the camps, and that's sometimes because families keep people with disability at home. They don't send them to school and things like this. So we are not really sure how many people with disability are actually living in the camps. So that makes things pretty difficult and slow. Also because we are all of us having a disability ourselves, all the members of the association, and this is also very new. In the desert, because we had many organizations before working for people with disabilities, but not being people with disabilities themselves. So that's another goal. Like we are accompanying the parents and showing with our own work, being like a role for them and seeing, look, we are all adults with disability. We are working here, and so your child will be capable of doing this as well. So we are pretty new and not that known. So for the moment, we are focusing on making ourselves known in the camps and organizing many activities of awareness raising within the camps. And we've done a lot of interviews on TV, radio, organized workshops. For the moment, we cannot really offer children anything material, but so our aim at the moment is more like people getting to know us and know our association and the goals. And I feel very proud of this.
Once again, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with Raising the Dots. Finally, what is your hope for the blind children living here? What message would you like to send to the wider world? What has struck you most that you think people outside really need to know about?
Entonces, yo el mensaje que quiero mandar al mundo en general.
I see if we manage to bring to the world this awareness about people with disability in the camps. I see children and future adults with fulfilled lives, and I would love to be the helping hand that I wished I would have had at the beginning, and to be on their side and concerning education, especially. And so if all continues in a good way, which we will do everything in our hands so that it keeps on like this, I see a bright future for them. So the message I would like to give to the world is like, please let's normalize disability. It's just disability. And it's just a circumstance, so we should not give more importance that it has. Message I would like to bring as well is that in this small part of the world, there is people living, they're called as Sahrawis, and we have been here for 50 years now, struggling. So after 50 years, we are still hoping for our land to be free, the Western Sahara, and we want to be living again in our land. Because life conditions here in the refugee camps in the desert, they are very tough. And of course, for people with disability, they are even more difficult than for everybody else.
Muchísimas gracias por la invitación al podcast. Es algo súper importante para mí.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast, because raising the voice of Sahrawi people. It's very important for me, and of course, raising awareness about the importance of Braille literacy in general and also in the camps and education. So thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias.
And bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Samira for sharing her story and Eva for translating. And if you have an interesting or powerful, moving story that you would like to share with us here at Raising the Dots, then do get in contact. info@dottingcorp.com. That email address again, it's info@dottingcorp.com. But from myself, Dave Williams, and the rest of the team, until next time, bye for now.